On the way here?
Yeah, it's going to be tropical, I think. Yeah, it's going to be in the 50s, so it's a big jump up from where we've been.
Yeah, 50s is tropical.
That's right. That's right.
Well, with Big Ten play coming up here, how much of a shift is there from finding out what guys can do and getting them out there versus putting guys out there that you trust because it's
I think we found out a lot about our team, up to this point, but I still think there's some questions to be answered in, certain spots, whether it be, maybe a couple of guys you bring off the bench offensively, certainly some bullpen roles, that type of thing. So there may be some guys that emerge, as you get into conference play that maybe you haven't seen as much, that maybe we see behind the scenes and feel like that they're worthy of an opportunity. So certainly a lot of the questions have been answered up to this point, but I think there's still, some roles that are still out there that we need to, get settled.
What characterizes a Big Ten weekend versus any other weekend you guys might play?
I don't know. I don't know that there's really, obviously it's a clean slate now this weekend. I mean, the record's 0-0, so you start over that way. Just kind of knowing that the games that you play in league play, all the games are obviously a factor in terms of postseason play, but the Big Ten champion is going to play in the postseason, so you got an opportunity to control your own destiny when it comes to that stuff. So you don't put any more on it. I think just knowing maybe a little bit more about the teams that you play, just because you played them, each year, or you're familiar with the style of play that certain coaches have and some of that kind of stuff. But I don't think our players really think of it in any other way. You just go out there and just go compete.
What do you tell the team after they come off? A loss is a loss, but frustration is a great loss. What do you tell the team after that?
Yeah, not all losses are created equal. There's some games where I've been frustrated, very, very rarely this year, where I've been frustrated with the focus. Maybe on only one or two occasions. I thought, after the Creighton game, you look up and I felt like we played a good game. I mean, we hit balls on the screws that, we lined into a double play. Max hits a ball with the bases loaded in the top of the 8th or top of the 9th that would have busted the game wide open and gets caught. That's baseball sometimes. So I thought we played a great game, good enough to win, and we didn't win. And that's a hard lesson to learn sometimes. But I think you have to put things in perspective too. Of you don't want to get completely down to the dumps after every loss, because again, they're just, if it's a lack of focus or concentration or effort, then that's something that needs to be challenged to the group. But I thought after two, it was a crushing loss, don't get me wrong, but I didn't feel like we played a bad game. I thought we had a bad first inning that led to a bad second inning on the mound, and then obviously not a great finish on the mound. And I thought in between there we had some really good performances.
Is England, you see a factor this weekend?
He'll be available. To what degree? Basically kind of how he's been for the last week, where if you needed him, in a pinch hit spot potentially, just knowing that he's not going to be full speed, he's available for that. But beyond that, he's going to be limited.
Sunday starter, is that something you guys are locked in on at this point?
No. I mean, your guess is probably pretty accurate as to who would be those candidates, but our focus is winning series, and so whatever we got to do to win series, we'll do, and then figure it out on Sunday.
I know we're talking about Big Ten play, but one of the advantages to the series with Creighton and UNO is it is split up, so you get some time to keep growing and adapting and learning as a team. When these guys do get to face UNO and Creighton again, what do you hope maybe this Big Ten piece of it is going to help teach them before those next games?
I don't really look at it in terms of who the opponent is, to be honest. I don't. You play the in-state teams, of course you want to beat them. I don't want to beat UNO any more or less than I want to beat North Dakota State or University of Texas. That's just God's honest truth. So we know we're always going to get their best shot every time we play, and what I hope to have happen is that we have some pitchers step up on the mound between now and then. That would help.
What do you make of Illinois? I mean, you look at what they've done in the non-conference, and they don't jump out at you statistically in a lot of different areas. What do you think they maybe do well? What's the challenge there?
They've hit for more power this year than usually. They've been a high average, don't strike out, not as many home runs. They've hit for more power this year, and they've got more power arms this year. So I think maybe their frontline guys are better than an older. They've got a couple of guys that have been there for a little bit. They've got some experience in the lineup. I think they just have a team that they like in terms of they seem to play well and complement each other well as a team, and that kind of has showed up in some of these. They go on the road and beat Southern Miss in some of these games. So I think we're pretty evenly matched in a lot of ways. So it'll be a fun series.
How do you approach pitching differently, knowing this Illinois team hits for more power compared to maybe last year's team when you faced them?
Honestly, we don't really have the luxury of doing that right now. I mean, we're just trying to find some guys that are going to step up. I mean, Shanneman will be back this weekend. I mean, it was kind of a fluke deal we've had some illness going through the team, but he was not available to pitch. He would have pitched, Tuesday. I mean, he would have been in the game in the ninth inning without question if he'd have been available. And we need somebody else to step up in that situation. And that's really just what we need to see. Is we need to see some guys that rise to the occasion. They step up and pitch the way they're capable of pitching out of the pen.
You've talked about the offense collectively and how it's kind of handed off, passed the torch. Individually, though, are there some guys that you've seen take a big step this year in terms of their approach? I think of like Nebraska from a couple of years ago, and just how a little mental tweak or mechanical tweak makes the difference. Are there some guys like that this year?
I would say Matthews for sure would be one that comes to mind. I think everybody's always seen he's oozed with potential and been a little streaky at times in his career, and he's got more at-bats under his belt, which certainly helps. But I think just him being very, very focused on just being consistent, I think has really helped him. He hasn't really tried to tweak too much. We haven't tried to tweak too much with him. He's really stuck to what he does well and mastered that, and he's been very consistent because of that. Kind of crazy to say it, but I think Max Anderson to a certain degree too, just knowing who he is as a hitter and just being okay with that and not trying to do more than that. Josh Caron's taken a huge step forward as an offensive player for us, without question. And then Gabe Swanson, I think would be another guy that has had some really good moments for us that has filled some shoes in England, before he got hurt, would fill that category too.
To what do you attribute those progressions? Is that a singular sort of Jesus moment? Is that a gradual, just natural growth type thing?
I think it's just a gradual growth. I mean, you have enough college at bats under your belt, you tend to just kind of naturally make some adjustments. And they've been with us now for 3 years, so they get more comfortable as older they get, as far as just being able to have that dialogue that helps them. And then I think just some little tweaks with some of their swings and approaches here and there, and I think you just look up, and it's contagious too. I mean, I've always said that, and it's the same way on the mound. I mean, as soon as some of our older pitchers step up and be the guys they're capable of being, the rest of the staff will really fall into place. I really believe that.
Bryce seems like a really upbeat guy when you talk to him.
Yeah,
kind of the way he is.
He has been an incredibly positive piece of the puzzle this year, and there's been times early in his career where he's gotten down on himself and doubted himself, and really kind of needed his teammates or coaches to kind of pick him up in terms of that. I've just noticed him being a lot less driven by his emotions this year and a lot more driven by his preparation. And that just sometimes comes with age, it comes with experience, but it has to be intentional on his part to do that, and he's really done that. I mean, I think the guy that you see is who we see every day. It's just that he's got a positive mental thought process, and a lot of that has to do with he's just very process driven. I mean, he's a hard worker, he works like a professional, and he's an amazing team captain for us. Thanks, Coach. Yep.
Thanks.
You bet.
Sun's coming out for you now.
Let's go.
Travel.